Ladies and gentlemen, today we unravel the story of a man who changed the course of history. J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, is often portrayed as a man of science, a visionary burdened by the weight of his invention. But his story doesn't end with the Manhattan Project, nor does it fit neatly into the confines of Hollywood narratives. The truth is far darker, and what came after his greatest achievement left him broken in ways few can imagine. Let's go beyond the curtain of the man celebrated for preventing World War II's escalation into a nuclear catastrophe. The message he received from the depths of the US government years later, the one that shattered his world, is just the tip of this complex, haunting tale. Oppenheimer's name became synonymous with the Manhattan Project, the secret US mission to develop the first nuclear weapons. While his scientific brilliance and leadership brought the project to fruition, it also left him with an unimaginable burden. On July 16, 1945, in the deserts of New Mexico, the first atomic bomb was detonated. As the explosion lit up the sky, Oppenheimer famously recalled a line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." These words weren't just poetic musings, they revealed the inner torment of a man who had unleashed a force capable of erasing humanity itself. When the bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing tens of thousands instantly and leaving countless others to suffer from radiation sickness, Oppenheimer's private agony grew. In the aftermath of World War II, Oppenheimer's perspective shifted. He went from being a celebrated scientist to an outspoken advocate for arms control. He warned against the unchecked proliferation of nuclear weapons, lobbying for international cooperation and oversight. This newfound pacifism didn't sit well with the US government, particularly as the Cold War began to escalate. The powers that be wanted a stronger arsenal, and Oppenheimer's resistance made him a target. His opposition to the hydrogen bomb, a weapon far more powerful than the atomic bomb, put him at odds with key figures in the government, including Edward Teller, a fellow physicist and staunch supporter of the weapons development. It was in this climate of suspicion and paranoia that the US government turned its back on the man it once hailed as a hero. In 1954, Oppenheimer received a message summoning him to a closed-door hearing conducted by the Atomic Energy Commission. The purpose of this hearing was not to honor his contributions or seek his counsel, it was to question his loyalty to the United States. The charges? Alleged communist ties and concerns over his opposition to further nuclear development. The hearing was nothing short of a public humiliation. Private conversations, personal relationships, and even his romantic liaisons were dredged up and scrutinized. Former colleagues testified against him, including Edward Teller, whose betrayal left Oppenheimer devastated. What makes this moment so chilling is the calculated cruelty behind it. The government had no concrete evidence of disloyalty. This was a political maneuver to silence a dissenting voice, a cautionary tale for others who might dare to challenge the military-industrial complex. Stripped of his security clearance, Oppenheimer was effectively exiled from the scientific community he helped build. The man who had been at the center of one of history's most significant achievements was now on the fringes, his reputation tarnished. But the message wasn't just about revoking his clearance, it was about erasing his influence. It was a stark reminder that no matter how significant your contributions, challenging authority could come at an unforgiving cost. For Oppenheimer, this was more than a professional setback, it was a personal tragedy. He withdrew from public life, retreating to a quieter existence. Yet, the weight of his ostracism and the moral implications of his work followed him until his death in 1967. The story of J. Robert Oppenheimer isn't just about science or politics, it's about the human cost of ambition, morality, and betrayal. His life serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of power and the fragility of legacy. The government that once celebrated him as a national hero reduced him to a scapegoat when his conscience clashed with their agenda. It's a stark reminder that even the brightest minds can be dimmed by the shadow of political expediency. As we reflect on Oppenheimer's life, we're left with questions that resonate even now. How do we reconcile scientific progress with ethical responsibility? How do we treat those who dare to speak truth to power? Oppenheimer's story is more relevant than ever in an age where technology continues to outpace our ability to understand its implications. His life reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge, while noble, must always be tempered by compassion and foresight. Oppenheimer's internal struggle didn't just stem from the fallout of his invention, it also came from his philosophical reflections. While many scientists focus solely on the pursuit of knowledge, Oppenheimer was acutely aware of its consequences. In a haunting quote, he once said, "In the Council's work, I came to feel that I had blood on my hands." He carried this guilt like a millstone around his neck, and it influenced every aspect of his post-war life. His attempt to atone by advocating for international control over nuclear weapons revealed his idealism, but also how deeply the events of the war scarred him. The betrayal Oppenheimer faced was not just from the government but also from the scientific community he had helped lead. His peers, who had once admired his genius, either turned on him or stayed silent. Edward Teller's testimony during Oppenheimer's security hearing was especially damning. Teller admitted that while he trusted Oppenheimer's intentions, he didn't feel safe having Oppenheimer in a position of influence. This public betrayal not only broke Oppenheimer's spirit but also sent a chilling message to other scientists: dissent would not be tolerated. While recent portrayals of Oppenheimer in films and documentaries capture much of his brilliance and turmoil, they often stop short of exploring the full depth of his isolation and despair. Hollywood tends to focus on the dramatic rise and fall, but the aftermath, the years of being ostracized and living under the shadow of his own creation, is where the real tragedy lies. Oppenheimer didn't live to see the vindication that came later. Decades after his death, historians and scientists have come to view him as a victim of Cold War paranoia rather than a genuine security threat. Despite his personal suffering, Oppenheimer's influence on science and policy didn't entirely fade. His warnings about the dangers of nuclear proliferation resonate more powerfully today than ever. The very systems of arms control that exist now were inspired, in part, by his advocacy. Oppenheimer's story is a reminder of the fragile line between genius and hubris, between power and morality. He was a man who achieved the unimaginable but paid the ultimate price for it, a price measured not in dollars or accolades but in peace of mind and personal dignity. In the end, his legacy is both a triumph and a cautionary tale. It's a testament to the complexity of the human spirit and the heavy burdens that come with shaping history. Thank you for taking this journey with me into the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer. If you found this story compelling, please consider sharing it to spread awareness of his extraordinary yet tragic life. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the untold stories of history's most fascinating figures. Let's remember Oppenheimer not just as the father of the atomic bomb, but as a man whose brilliance and conscience illuminated the cost of power.